Let's do this Tim Pool thing, actually, just because this will be my second crack at having fun, at least with this topic.
The anti-war Tim Pool?
Yeah.
New song drop.
I just gotta say, I went on Tim Pool's program to debate him, as has Matt Binder, and he brought up the topic of the war in Ukraine, and I mentioned that I supported aid to Ukraine, obviously with not carte blanche, within reason, with conditions about peace and all of that, but I do believe that the Ukrainian defense is a just cause. And he kept saying, you're to the right of me on foreign policy. You're to the right of me on foreign policy. And I said, well, how about Israel? You know, that's the top recipient of our military aid. And he said, well, I don't know enough about that to comment.
Whoopsie.
And moved on very quickly. He said, you know, he was very principled in his anti-war stance, but he, as a political commentator, doesn't know enough about the top recipient of our military aid.
See,
Look,
this is why you guys don't get invited places.
not having real conversations like this, because Tim, I guess he got up to date. He's been educated on Israel since June, since we spoke.
He's at least had time.
And turns out this principled anti-war voice in the country actually just incredibly susceptible to the most rank IDF propaganda.
This is the tragedy of war, Wolf. I mean,
Wow.
as you know, we've been saying for days, move south.
Sorry, just to, like,
The
for
villains
people who
are-
don't remember that clip, right before that, with the tragedy of war thing, Wolf was like, so you bombed all those people at the refugee camp. And you're not even sure necessarily that you got the guy.
Yep.
And he's like, well, that's a tragedy of war. So that's what Tim is wowing.
Oh, and by the way, after this, the Israeli government went and struck the refugee camp a second time and then a third time.
Yeah, terror bombing.
Knowing that they hit civilians, admitting it on and bragging essentially on CNN.
A terror bombing by a terror government that came into this world 75 years ago doing this exact same thing, dropping bombs on neighborhoods so the Arabs would flee, as they said. And I can give you a source on that.
Wow.
As you know, we've been saying for days, move south. Civilians that are not involved with Hamas, please move south.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a little bit more information. You knew there were civilians there. You knew there were refugees, all sorts of refugees, but you decided to still drop a bomb on that refugee camp attempting to kill the Hamas commander. By the way, was he killed?
I can't confirm yet.
I mean, Wolf should have just let him answer the question. Then he just jumped to another one. We get the point. Israel says they carried out an airstrike that Hamas claimed killed more than 50 people.
Again, like Tim adding bullshit there that is not really actually appropriate to what what he just watched. Wolf Blitzer asked that question a number of times, and each time the guy said, yeah, we bomb civilians. We try not to, but it just happens.
No, in fact, that is one of the better displays of journalism I've seen on CNN. He let the guy answer, and the answer was monstrous.
Yeah.
So,
we get the point. Israel says they carried out an airstrike that Hamas claimed killed more than 50 people in Gaza's Jabalia refugee camp, dozens of bodies. Here's my issue with this. That CNN interview, yeah, damning. But Hamas lied about the hospital. And many on the left, pro-Palestinian groups and left, lied about the hospital. So when stories like this come out, what am I supposed to do?
I don't know about the hospital, frankly. I'm not sure that the story has really been debunked.
Well, it has. They claimed the hospital was leveled and 500 people died.
Well, the hospital wasn't leveled. They hit the parking lot.
Yep, and it may have been a couple dozen injured with a certain number.
No,
but there's been...
Sorry.
Nope.
Nah, it was more than that. It was hundreds. And like that, the debunk thing, let's be very clear for people, because there's been a lot of obfuscation by people who are just, cowards on this front. The circumstantial evidence has always pointed to Israel and continues to point to Israel. Israel, sighted in that building, had hit it with a artillery shell earlier, and they actually had warned that hospital of everyone to get out.
Evacuation orders were issued to, 24 hospitals.
And, they bomb hospitals as a matter of whatever they want to say, going after Hamas. They do this. They are hospital bombers, regardless. The only ambiguity is in the forensic evidence, which could go either way at this point. And I think, I think it's important to emphasize that the circumstantial case points to Israel. And whatever I'm not a bomb expert, and I don't know how to judge bomb experts. So there's a lot of forensic stuff that comes out, but the circumstantial case is clear. And anybody who's saying that it's been debunked or confirmed that Hamas fired that rocket is lying. That's the lie.
Yes, he's an anti-war principled guy who's just taking the United States government at its word, even though there has yet to be a statement issued by either the IDF or the United States government about the New York Times forensic investigation that found that the video that they put out that said was the Hamas rocket was actually an Israeli rocket that did not hit the hospital. So we still don't have information that's dispositive of anything, and part of that is due to the blackout that is imposed by the Israeli government, and that's on purpose, by the way.
Which is,
but we do know that the information that was given was false in a variety of different ways.
They lied.
They lied multiple times.
Made stuff up.
They lied about the footage that they sent out. This is again the circumstantial evidence. They lied about the conversations between Hamas fighters, which was heavily altered.
Bullshit
Conversations that were it was disproven within like 2 hours that this was not a conversation between Hamas fighters. Why, if this is just clearly a Hamas rocket, would they put out so much misinformation on this front?
Yeah.
Again, we don't have proof, and honestly, because of the way Israel has blocked off all information, we may never have proof. But this guy, who pretends that he's some sort of truth teller, is taking the Israeli and United States government at its word, even when the evidence is so completely garbage that it's almost laughable.
And we just have to address the situation, like you say, Israel is responsible for why it's impossible to really assess a lot of these claims forensically, because they're bombing it and cut the internet off. But let's just say, for example, and I have a real hesitancy in even granting this, because I don't think you could take the IDF at their word, the IOF, that it was a Hamas rocket misfire, right? The conditions for that, and I don't believe that this has been proven at all, but if that is the case, we can actually still address that reality too, which is that there should have been a ceasefire before this, and that because a lot of people say Hamas, they say it was a Hamas rocket as if Hamas did it to themselves, and no, I don't think anybody's suggesting that. I think the suggestion is that in the sort of fighting that a rocket misfired, right? And again, that is still on the greater power that is responsible for blocking every governing body on this fucking earth from going to a ceasefire. It is America and Israel.
But Tim is very dumb. Also,
yeah.
I've made this point on my own stream, and it's we've seen time and time again various outlets, independent journalists, come out and basically verify the history of these reported deaths that come out of Gaza, and they all match up. There's no discrepancies throughout the history of this reporting. So what I assumed was there was probably some sort of, there's a difference between getting something wrong and then purposely spreading disinformation. And my assumption was, under the chaoticness of this bombing, the missile or whatever it was, it's still up for debate, hitting the hospital. There was a discrepancy in exactly what happened, and wrong information got out. But since I've come across a quite interesting piece, I can't find it right now, but I will send it to you guys when I can. But it was someone found the original Al Jazeera report that said that where it was pulled. I'm not sure if you guys have seen this. Where
yes,
it was
mistranslated.
Yeah, it was mistranslated. It wasn't 500 dead. It was 500 victims, as in people who died and injured. And that mistranslation went out, and every outlet just picked up it and ran with it, because the mistranslation was from a respectable media outlet. And that's why that's what happened. There was no purposeful lying and distortion to spread falsehoods. It was it seemed like a combination of a mistake and things getting lost in the chaotic nature of what was going on. And that's a huge difference. That's a huge difference between willfully lying and making a mistake that you didn't even know you made.
But I mean, and we'll just say though, we know that the IDF is lying though about the footage that they put out.
Right. They retracted it themselves after people called them out for it.
If Tim is right, let's be clear about what that means. It means that Israel fabricated evidence for its alibi numerous times, despite that alibi being true. And they did that in the midst over dead people, like lying about conversations and stuff like that. They fabricate evidence. That's where the fabulists are on this thing. But yeah, good for Michael Rechtenwald, who I was unaware of who that was.
He's running for president as a libertarian.
Not a good guy, I don't think, right?
But I do want to hear a little bit more what he has to say, pushing back on Tim.
But yeah, I mean,
he's wearing a stupid.
But also, sorry, just one thing is the headline Tim just responded to says Israel say they bombed it. Yeah. So there's not even ambiguity about that.
Oh, there's no. The IDF spokesperson said it.
But that's exactly what this hospital thing has meant to the media this entire time. It's a no man's land where you can say, who knows about anything? Oh dear. That's all it has ever meant. That's why it's been emphasized so much by cowards in media that want to enable ethnic cleansing.
And that is why people have asked why we keep focusing on this one hospital when they're bombing other hospitals, because it's important in training you to
it's a cudgel
how you're interacting with the media on this front.
Well, I mean, that's the asymmetry of expectations of proof when it comes to dealing with this kind of asymmetric warfare, because ultimately, it's not unreasonable. In fact, it's very reasonable to believe that Israel bombed this hospital, given their history of bombing hospitals in the context under which this hospital was bombed.
And also taking credit for it.
Yes. And then
bragging and then deleting a tweet. We forgot that.
Yes. And then also, fabricating evidence to prove that they didn't do it. If this were like a court case, or even one of our country's terrible police officers, if this were sort of SVU, certainly that would be enough to investigate, but they're not allowing investigations.
Yeah. Okay, I had AI make that body cam footage, but rest assured that he had that cocaine on him when I was arrested.
Yeah.
It's just, they want to focus on the mystification of this, because despite all of those other war crimes in the context under which this one occurred under, if people happen to get it even 1% wrong, it becomes an excuse for disproving every abuse that ever happened to Palestinian people, even though they have already been proven, as Matt said. And so it becomes just a vehicle for people to mystify the entirety of this conflict, even as other hospitals are being vocally bombed by Israel. And, so there's definitely, I think it's important to focus on this one for the reasons you said, Emma, and also in how lazy and obvious it has been that they are trying to hide what happened here. But also important to realize that, like in any other circumstance, we would not be giving the benefit of the doubt to organization that was doing this sort of thing, unless they happen to be a Western colonial power committing genocide.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, let's hear a tiny bit more.
They claim the hospital was leveled and 500 people died.
Well, the hospital wasn't leveled. They hit the parking lot.
Yep, and it may have been a couple.
But also pause that. I never saw anyone say the hospital was leveled. Even that night, I saw no news outlet say the hospital was leveled. People automatically wanted to concoct whatever they concocted in their head. We did hear a hospital was hit. We did hear a lot of people died. We didn't hear that a hospital was leveled.
We saw a massive explosion by a hospital.
But Matt, there was a CIA associated Twitter account that did some sort of ballistic analysis using blurry camera footage that said it was most likely Hamas. So who knows what to believe?
Well, yeah, sorry, good point. And by the way, with regards to the refugee triple tap that we've seen in the past 72 hours, they also lied about that one. They said that, this is evidence of tunnels underneath it, and actually it was just the way JDAMs blow up.
Oh,
so they just lie like the mendacity of this ethnic cleansing. I mean, this.
It was a wedding. There was a wedding there too in Gaza, I guess.
Right. I mean, Obama was like, "Oh, look, sometimes you got to do it."
Hospital wasn't leveled. They hit the parking lot.
Yep, and it may have been a couple dozen injured with a certain number of deaths. We don't know.
But there's been other hospitals hit, and they've told them to get out of the other hospitals. They've said evacuate these hospitals.
You can't do
then
that.
They tell them they're going to bomb the north, so move south while they're bombing the south.
Okay. There we go.
This is unbelievable. So there's nowhere for these people to go. They're shooting fish in a barrel, and they've got them trapped there in a virtual concentration camp. I'm sorry if that sounds like leftist rhetoric, but these people are in a walled area. No exit.
What do we do? Nothing. Should the U.S. just back away?
We should not have. First of all, the UN had a movement to have a ceasefire, and we were one of 7 countries that refused to
14.
go along with it.
Hillary
but
Hillary
there was
Clinton is very anti-ceasefire.
There was a ceasefire when Hamas
Clinton.
initiated the terrorist attack like 3 weeks ago. There was a ceasefire between Gaza and Israel. Then Hamas broke the ceasefire.
That's made up.
Yeah, I mean, the
Everyone
idea
in
like
Mexico have to wear a hat now. Everyone is wearing a hat suddenly on this
to make it less obvious.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, it's as Matt has called it before, a compensatory hairpiece or headpiece.
Yeah,
Time affects us all, not just Tim Pool.
So what do you want the American government to do?
Isn't Tim Pool a guy who's anti any sort of U.S. intervention on any other?
He said he's anti-war, more anti-war than I am.
What do you want the American government to do? Stop killing brown people? What? No, that's silly.
Yeah.
There should be a ceasefire, and Hamas should also
Release the hostages. Yeah, as a part of the ceasefire.
Yeah. So bring this up. This is it was insane to me, and the hostages stuff too.
Yeah.
So this is what Anthony Blinken tweeted out on the 8th, I believe. Is that what it says?
Screenshot cuts it off. Yeah, with the 8th. So the day after the.
But this was deleted, I think.
But it was deleted.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. They deleted this immediately after it was put up. But Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan and I spoke further on Hamas's terrorist attacks to Israel. I encourage Turkey's advocacy for a ceasefire and the release of all hostages. Those two things are not. For some reason, the people that are putting up the hostage posters and whatever, which, don't pull down because you'll be made a propaganda object yourself. But those people, there needs to be something said about this hostage situation, which is, where's my Thursday at? Oh, there it is.
I saw a clip of a super far right Netanyahu supporter in Israel tearing down those posters because to them they view it as an anti-Netanyahu thing.
Yep.
I say print up a new one and point out Netanyahu is the reason that this is happening.
He's bombing the place where the hostages are.
This could have all been done without any sort of bombing, because you know what? It's a little bit of a little fact that has been overlooked in this entire time is that there's hundreds and thousands of people, not hundreds of thousands, but thousands of people, Palestinians in Israeli jails. And how about exchange those for the people that are hostages?
Wow.
That's instead we just bomb people, including the hostages.
But that would be a rational response, and that's not what this is. This is an excuse for the Netanyahu Israeli government to kill as many Palestinians as they want.
The families of the hostages have called for that. Even they put out a statement saying exchange everyone for everyone.
Exactly.
Well,
of course.
Exactly.
You guys aren't familiar with high-level hostage negotiation like myself and Netanyahu are. Everyone knows that when someone takes a hostage, the first thing you do is blow the hostage's brains out to show show the terrorists that you're serious. You don't want them to think that you're fucking around.
I feel like listen, I know a lot of people are in this country are rather pro-cop, but I feel like one thing that most people would criticize the police for is if there was a hostage situation and hostages ended up dying because of police's actions. That's something I know because throughout history it's happened, and people usually criticize the police for this. Why in this scenario is nobody doing that? It is beyond.
This is
unbelievable. If the Israeli government is the responsible party here, in terms of they're the governmental, reliable, legitimate actor here, and Hamas is this group of terrorist criminals, then it's on them to take care of the situation in a way that does not result in the deaths of the hostages. I mean, it's so bizarre to me. No one would expect the criminal hostage taker in a domestic situation to no one would put the responsibilities on them to make sure the person they took hostage doesn't die. Nobody would think that. They would look at the police and say the police need to do something to get those people free safely.
Yeah. IDF doing high-speed chases would be just plow through every other car on the road with a Snowpiercer type thing until you get the guy who's running away, the murder suspect, right?
Yeah.
Just who gives a shit? Just plow through whoever, because you need to make sure that you don't let that guy get away and show that murderers can get away or whatever. This is the idea that
as you murder,
exactly, as you just kill there's hundreds of people that are just there.
It's the worst kind of circular logic. I mean, and that's to almost be kind about it.